Hey guys, it's Digi here, and it's with a very heavy and very painful heart that I say hello to you on this episode of Digi Thinks. It's a bit of a sad one, really, but I felt that I really wanted to do something like this because I wanted to do a tribute in my own way. So here goes, and hopefully the recording actually sticks this time. So for those of you who don't know and have managed to avoid social media for the majority of the day, Nintendo president Satoru Iwata sadly passed away a couple of days ago on the 11th of July from bile duct cancer, which is quite a rare form actually of cancer, and is quite difficult to get rid of unless you catch it quite early. And those of you who remember E3 2014 will remember that Iwata couldn't make it to that event. That was apparently because, as Nintendo revealed later on, that was because he was actually having surgery on that cancer, and therefore he couldn't fly out to LA for the event. And from what we gathered, he had, the surgery was a success. They managed to get rid of the cancer. But as it turns out, it came back, and unfortunately came back for good, and very sadly claimed Iwata's life on Saturday. And it's such a shock, and it's such a bizarre feeling when somebody that you don't know personally but had such a huge influence in your life and the things that you love passes away. There's another example in Monty Ohm, when he unfortunately passed away too soon for his time. That was I was sobbing and crying for a good while on that one, because he was just such a big influence, and he was just such a big name in animation and just in gaming in general. Everybody knew him, and of course everybody knows Iwata, and it's so upsetting that he was taken before his time. He was only 55, and that's not it's not right. And I know it's so stupid to say, but it's not fair, honestly, because he was such a good man, was Iwata. He was so humble and he was so kind that it just feels wrong to know that he's not with us anymore, that he's been taken by this this horrible disease, this horrible cancer. And there's something very sombering about the moment. And I found out the news at breakfast this morning. I checked Twitter and found out about it that way, and was on the verge of tears at that point. And then all throughout the day during work, I've just been kind of checking up on Reddit and Twitter, and it's just been absolutely mind-blowing to see the support that's been coming in, and just it's incredible to think of how much influence he had and how many people have been affected by his passing. Like, just the tributes that have been pouring in on Tumblr, on Twitter, on Reddit, on the Miiverse is just ablaze with messages of grief, but also joy and thanks for what Iwata brought to us. I mean, he was, the famous quote of his is that he is, his business card says he's a president, but in his mind he's still a programmer, and in his heart he's still a gamer. And that really shows when you think of the things that he's done. Like, one of his first games was Balloon Fight for the NES, and I love that game. I picked it up thanks to Animal Crossing on the GameCube, and it was such a simple premise, but it's so well executed and just so well done that it just lasted on me. And I need to pick it up on the Virtual Console, because it's just such a great game. And if you have it, I advise you do the same, honestly, because Balloon Fight is just great. The music's superb, for one, and it's just such a great game. And then there's the things he did for other people as well. For example, there's a few famous stories, one of which was that he basically reprogrammed Earthbound into something playable, And so he was essentially responsible for that game's release. And then, of course, they recently brought it out in the West. So thanks, it's all thanks to Iwata that game even existed. And then there's Pokemon Stadium, where he essentially, without reference or notes, ported the battle system from the Game Boy games into the N64 so that they could make Pokemon Stadium, which is absurd. Just when you think of how much knowledge that must have taken, to do that is just insane. And then the other things he'd done for Pokemon, that he basically Game Freak was still slightly not too sure on coding back when they made Gold and Silver, so they essentially coded Johto, and it was very bloated coding, so it took up too much space on the cartridge. So Iwata stepped in and basically compressed Johto so far down that they were able to fit Kanto into the same cartridge. So basically it's thanks to Iwata that we were able to experience both regions in the same game. And it's just mind-blowing that, not only was he the figurehead of the company, but he still cared so much about the games and the fans. Like, you could just tell that he was so into running his company the best way that he could. And, just look at how, when the Wii U was doing badly at its initial launch, he slashed his wages and ordered the company representatives and colleagues to do the same. That's not something you hear of very often, if at all. And just, he was so ready to take the hit for those loss in sales and keep the company afloat. And that is just so humbling and so, it's just he was such a good guy. Like, there's no two ways about it. Just look at the outpouring of love from devs and fans alike. Iwata was such a massive and wholesomely good influence on the industry. And you can see it in the tributes today. You can see everything that's culminated, and that's why I wanted to do this video, because Satoru Iwata has helped the games industry as a whole so much that his legacy will just go on and on, or at least I hope it does. I hope that nobody forgets the things that he's done for this industry. And it's just such a shock that he's gone. It's barely computing that we've lost such a legend. And I promised myself I'd try not to cry when I re-recorded this, but it's very difficult because it's just such a loss, not just to Nintendo, but to gaming as a whole. And honestly, I think that you just can't deny, nobody can deny the things he's done and how much he's changed the industry. I think I remember seeing another quote somewhere that he was, in an industry of brown and grey, he was determined to bring colour. And it's just, that just sums him up really. He was such a humble and such a well-liked individual that it's just almost impossible to believe he's gone. It's just, there's no two ways about it, honestly. But I think that's all I can really say on the matter. It's just, I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss the directs. I'm going to miss him giving that information directly to my face and my eye holes. I'm going to miss him, and I'm going to miss his stupid bananas. So, rest in peace, Satoru Iwata. Thank you for everything you've done and the legacy you've left behind. Thank you. And goodbye, everybody.